So, as I mentioned in the last video on here, we're going to be doing things a little differently this year. There will still be trick tips, but we're starting this whole new series about the philosophy of freestyle, let's say. Some of the harder lessons, the things that aren't just like, learn trick, do trick. And this is some of the most important stuff, and I figure it's only best to start this series with one of the hardest lessons I had to learn, and one of the things that's going to make you, the viewer, the most angry with me. So start warming up your fingers, get ready for all the angry comments you're going to leave, because here goes nothing. Lesson 1, the hardest truth you're ever going to learn in freestyle. Most of your tricks probably suck. Now I get it. No one wants to hear that the things they're doing that they probably really like suck. And there is a strong argument for just going out there and doing whatever it is you feel like and having fun. I get that, I do, but if you are subscribed to a channel called Freestyle Tricktips and you're learning how to do freestyle tricks, and if you've clicked on this video, you probably want to be a better freestyler. And having a filter, having quality control is a very important part of that. And I remember when I was just a young, doe-eyed, naive, innocent little freestyle rat, and I'd come up with these weird new tricks. I'm like, oh, look at this is really interesting, and look at this new thing I've done. And I had to have people older than me and more cynical than me just go, yeah, Tony, that's bad. And that hurt. You know, your gut reaction to that is to go, yeah, but man, you're just like, yeah, you're just gatekeeping, and like you don't get me, and you don't get what I'm trying to do, and you're only saying this because like the cool guys, like Marco Sassi, like if he did it, you'd probably really like it, and it's just because you don't. No, some tricks are just really hideous. Okay, hang on, whoa. Before we go any further, I want to cut off another point of dissent. Just before anyone thinks, oh, this is just about what Tony thinks is cool, and this is him wanting to be a tastemaker, and oh yeah, this is cool, this is lame, this is... No, that's not what I'm trying to do. Freestyle has always been a broad church. There's room for multiple different approaches, and as long as it is just you, the board and the floor, no obstacles, it's freestyle, right? Anything goes. I mean, just before I go off on a rant there, look at Sean Burke. He is an incredibly talented freestyler with incredible skill at doing things I absolutely hate. I have no interest in doing any of the tricks he does. I'm pretty sure he feels the same way about me. He doesn't want to do footwork and wheelies and all that crap, but I can respect his talent. Hopefully he can respect mine. That's just how it goes. This isn't like street skating where something's really cool, you know, one year and the next it's not. You know, like how pressure flips were big in the early 90s and now everyone's like, oh, pressure flips, they're dorky, oh, they're awful. Despite the fact that everyone loves inward heel flips, which is fundamentally the same trick, only uglier because your legs have to do this and it's just not a... Anyway. The point I'm trying to make here is that not all tricks have the same value. Some tricks are just better than others, and some tricks are irredeemably bad. Whether it's because they're pointless or ugly, or they have better alternatives. And it's important to be able to look at tricks and evaluate them in this way. Now, I could look at videos of other people skating here, and I could be like, oh yeah, look at this thing that Nick Ballou does, oh, isn't that ugly? Oh, look at these things Felix does. No, Felix does nothing ugly, actually. But that would make me a dickhead. Despite what people think, I'm not a dickhead. So, I'm going to show you some tricks that I've done. Because I've been doing this for 20 years now. I've picked up a lot of tricks along the way, and there's a lot that I used to think were brilliant. And now I realize are terrible. So hopefully if I show you some examples, show you why I don't do them, and why you shouldn't do them, we can learn a few kind of key lessons here, a few common threads, that then you can apply to your own tricks and be like, okay, is this worth it? Does this have value? Or is it just an irredeemably ugly thing that's kind of a little curiosity? It's an important process to learn, so let me walk you through how I applied that to some of my tricks. Now I'm going to start this off almost chronologically, back at the earliest thing that I learned that I was like, yeah, look at how wacky and creative and interesting this is. And it was this horrendous monstrosity. See, I learned that actually in my mum's kitchen, please don't kill me, Mum, when I was like 13 years old. And it seemed like such an obvious thing to do because in a world where you've got finger flip variations, why not grab at the side and pull inwards? You know, it's called a hand flip, or that variation is often called a monkey flip. I think a monkey flip's supposed to go 180, but whatever, it's irrelevant because it's an awful trick. I know I didn't realize that because as a kid, you tend to look at the freestyle, you tend to look at skateboarding and you go, I flipped a board, I made the board flip, that has to have value, right? I did a flip and I landed on it, that has to be good. And this is the problem. Not all flips are created equal. Let's take a second to evaluate this critically. What is it that makes monkey flips, and by extension hand flips, so ugly? I mean, in a world where you can flip the board with your hands all these different ways, and finger flips, I'm not criticizing those, I think those are great. Why are monkey flips and hand flips so disgusting? See, ultimately what it comes down to is the mechanics of the flip. When you do a finger flip properly, you're grabbing the end of the nose, and that means the actual mechanic of the flip, the mechanism of it, it keeps the flip centered, it keeps it on that axis. When you do a hand flip from tail here, or you do a monkey flip, rolling, grabbing there, that's not the case. You're ragging it backwards into a flip, pulling it. And so, while a finger flip should, in theory, stay on the spot, stay exactly in the same place, a monkey flip will always tumble backwards. Now that in itself is not necessarily the worst thing. It's not pretty, but you know, there's a lot of tricks that travel sideways. My beloved kickflip does, for instance. But the monkey flip has two additional problems. The first one is that it tends to clatter off the ground. It's very rare you see one that gets some lift that looks clean. They just tumble a little bit, and that's never nice. Ugh. But the more egregious problem, the thing that makes them really horrendous, is the starting position. See, to a beginner, you might look at a regular finger flip and be like, oh yeah, you're all balled up and squatty. That's not a natural position. But surprisingly, once you've done a few, it is. You know, your front foot is in the center of the board, it's solid, it's along that block in the middle, kind of in line with the trucks. It feels stable. Similarly, the back foot on the tail gets you a nice snappy pop, and again, well centered. Look, everything is in line. Sure, I'm balled up, but as I go to do the trick, I'm in a very natural position. That doesn't happen with monkey flips. Because of the way it flips, your feet have to be right on this edge, ready to almost pressure flip it over. Now, if you're going to stink bug it, that's ugly. If you tuck around the knee, make it look a little bit more stylish, but you're still off balance. All your weight's still on this rail, and your arse has to hang out the side. Any trick where you're bending over like this and pushing your arse into the air, it's not going to look good. The problem gets even worse when you're rolling, because as you're rolling into it, doing a rolling finger flip can be a quick, snappy thing. Getting into position for monkey flips, that does not look graceful in any way. And actually, that kind of leads us to my second trick. This next trick owes its existence to that, the 180 kickflip. Now, I'm not saying the 180 kickflip is a bad trick. In fact, completely the opposite. As far as I'm concerned, it's one of the greatest tricks of all time. It is quick to set up for, it's a really easy flick, and it's amazingly versatile. You can do so much with the 180 kickflip. You can land it to rail, you can turn with it, you can turn it into big spin flips and 360 flips, and you can do it on different terrain, you can do it on flat banks. It is a great trick. Truly, top tier, upper echelon S tier trick right there. But it presented me with a problem. See, I love kickflips, and everyone around me is doing ollie-based flips, and I'm looking at them and they're like, okay, so they shove it backside and flip, and then shove it frontside and flip, but I'm kind of locked in. If you're a back foot flipper, which is, you know, the original form of the kickflip, everyone used their back foot, then it's always going to go backside because you've got to pull that foot that way. It's going to always go in that direction. And I didn't like that. I really wanted to prove that the kickflip was versatile and you could do it in every way. But I didn't want to flip with the front foot because my brain was still locked into this idea, oh, that'd be switch, that'd totally be switch. Nah. And I didn't want to have to cross my feet over and have that foot in the front because then, well, again, I'm in the wrong stance. Oh no, it'd be switch. So how do I make the trick spin front side using my back foot without changing my stance? It just seemed impossible. And then I had an idea, and boy did I regret it. See, my solution to this supposedly unsolvable problem was just to move my feet around a bit. See, when you do a kickflip, you normally hook on the toe side of the board. Well, what if I keep the same stance, but hook on the heel side of the board? Well, that puts me into a bit of a weird position, but then it'll spin front side. I did it! I solved the problem. I've made it go front side. It's spinning the opposite way. I've done this amazing thing. I was so happy. It's like, yes, I've unlocked this whole new avenue of kickflip tricks. There's so much I can do with this. And I never did. And maybe you can immediately see why. This is not a comfortable position. No part of that setup is attractive, is smooth. You can't really get into it comfortably. You always wobble. It takes time. And ultimately, it just wasn't worth it. The thing that was the real final nail in the coffin for this trick for a long time was that I was showing it to someone and they rightly went, oh, you're doing a plie. Now, I've got nothing against ballet, but I don't want to have to do a plie to do what is effectively a very basic flip. That doesn't work for me, man. Now, because of how uncomfortable that was and the fact it didn't flow and just generally was ugly, I abandoned the idea of taking a kickflip frontside for literally a decade. And in that time, I did a lot of interesting things with good kickflips. And I had a lot of fun, but this thing still nagged in the back of my mind. And then eventually, it was Brandon Ross, God bless him, who introduced me to a much better idea. And it's one of those things where as soon as you see it, you go, oh, that is so obvious. Because all he did was set up in a regular kickflip position, but move his back foot just slightly further forward, just sneaking it. So as he did the flip, the back foot could pass across the front of the other foot, and you'd effectively do a frontside flip. And annoyingly, that just looked really nice. Now, I love that trick, and I have done it backwards and forwards, and with a bit of practice, you can actually make it do a pseudo hard flip, rolling forwards and make it turn front side with a flip. And it's really fun. It comes up quite high, it feels great. And God, I wish I'd found that solution instead of the butt ugly thing I used to do. Think of how much more I could have done with it over the years. Jeez. The next trick might surprise people, because after all, I like cocos, so shouldn't I like coco grabs? And this is a really important example because it shows that this whole video is not about tricks that I like or tricks that I enjoy even, but more about how some tricks do or do not have value or purpose or even reason to be, as silly and tenuous as it might sound, applying those ideas to something as stupid as freestyle tricks. See, I do love coconut wheelies, and once upon a time, I really enjoyed doing coconut grabs. And the one that I just did, the coconut stalefish, I definitely wasn't the first person to do it. I think I probably saw, I think it was one of the Japanese guys in Marvel, so let's say one of the Fuji brothers, that sounds about right. I saw them do it and I was like, oh yeah, hang on, I can do coconut wheelies. So if I bend down and grab the board, I can do something really cool with it. Problem is, that's just not true. See, coconut wheelie grabs effectively fall foul of 3 different problems. The first one, and this is somewhat petty, is that they're just not hard. If you can coconut wheelie, you can just bend down and grab the board in all sorts of different variations. And in fact, there was someone from Philadelphia, a guy called Justin Dettel, who saw me do a coco grab and was like, oh, that's really interesting, that's really cool, like what can you do with that? Can you try all these different grabs? And I did a video that I think is now lost to the ether of me dabbling with different grabs. Like, oh yeah, coco cannonball, oh yeah, coco roast beef, oh, coco nose grab, coco crail. That was my favorite because that was completely messed up. I think the weirdest one I ever did was a coco 1 foot tail grab. That one is hard, I'll give you that. Do not recommend though. So you're not really showing any extra skill or talent or anything by grabbing the board. So then is it adding style? Well, no, not really, because again, we come back to the monkey flip issue. Ultimately, anything where you've got to squat like that, it typically does not look good. Most of these things, you can tort yourself into a position, but you're still just looking a bit squatty. And then the third and final problem is that you can't hold a coconut wheelie forever. And if you come into it with a bit of speed, you want to come out of it with speed, ideally, to make it flow. And if you bend down and grab the board, you're pretty much cutting yourself off from doing something interesting out of the coconut wheelie, which is where the real skill and the real interesting part of the coconut wheelie is. So you're not showing skill, it doesn't look particularly good, and you've cut off a lot of other options. Why bother? Now look, I'll be honest. If I'm doing a demo, I might still do a cheeky coco grab here and there. That's not because it's a good trick. Demo skating is very different to everything else you'll ever do, because sometimes, you know, you've just got to kill time. Sometimes you need to catch your breath. Sometimes you just want to take the piss because you're having a silly day. And coco wheelie grabs, they do well in all three of those categories. Outside of that, they're completely worthless. If I was to do one in a competition, any judge worth his salt would look at that and be like, oof, oh yeah, that's, it didn't look good, didn't add anything to the trick, it didn't flow. Tell me you can do better than that. F tier, bottom grade, straight out, low marks. If you want to do coconut wheelies, and statistics suggest you do because they're very popular, doing literally anything else out of it, rather than bending down and grabbing the board, will give you more flow and show you far more control of the board than any dumb coconut wheelie grab will. Even a basic 180 shove it, done badly, looks better than a coco grab. Right, the next thing on our list of undesirables is something I bet most people have been expecting since the start of this video. If you know me, you will know that I hate pogos. I think this is silly, I think it's boring, actively do not enjoy, not my thing. But, remember how I said towards the start of the video, this isn't about my personal preference. I'm not trashing all pogos. I don't enjoy them, I don't want to do them, but that's not the point of the video. The point is this. You see, when you're doing pogos, you want to grab the nose there and there. Anyone who's good at pogos will do the same, because this is a very natural posture. I mean, you're still stooped over, you're still hopping up and down in one spot, but yeah, if you're going to do them right. This is relaxed. This is not. If it's not immediately obvious what the problem is with this particular pogo, let me illustrate one thing. All I'm doing is hopping up and down. This arm doesn't have to do anything, and the board will just come up. You're not trying to lift your whole body up, you're literally just trying to lift 1.5 kilos of skateboard. There's not a lot there. Going, oh yeah, that's a handle, will only encourage you to grip really tight and try and pull your whole body weight up, which is not the goal here. But moreover, look at this body form. Because as much as this next sentence will make Sean Burke cringe, sorry mate, more or less everything we do in freestyle is about style, aesthetics, flow, and the art of movement, and other such pretentious things. He's gonna murder me. This fulfills none of these criteria. This is an ugly body form. It hunches me over. This bend is awful. Having my arm here, relaxed, open, natural. And that's really what we're aiming for here. Now, if I'm honest, this truck grab has been the absolute bane of my life, because doing pogos like this completely ruined pogos for me. I was unlikely to do them anyway. I don't enjoy sitting in one spot when I'm skating at all. But when I was 15, I was like, oh yeah, if I learn one trick from every category, I'll learn a pogo and a kickflip and a pressure flip and a Casper and an impossible and all these different things. It's one single trick, then it's like, yeah, showing I'm varied. That's good, right? Nah. But I didn't have anyone there to tell me, grab the side of the nose, don't grab the truck. So I'm there hopping up and down, like, yeah, I'm pogoing. What am I going to do with this? Well, what about that little switch footy thing that old Rooney Moolah does? So he's like bouncing like that, and then he takes, oh, that feels weird, doesn't it? That's not comfortable, because, I mean, I've got such a tight gap to get through. How does he do that? I didn't realise, because I was an idiot, if I'm just grabbing there, look, I've got so much more room for that leg. Getting into that position and pogoing there or switch footing becomes so much more simple. If only I'd had someone there on a proto form of YouTube in 2003 to go, don't be an idiot, just grab the side of the nose. What a radical idea. Where this really bit me in the ass was with fan flips. Because I did learn a couple of harder pogo tricks, and this was the one where I went, yeah, I'm not really interested in doing carousels, but I like fan flips, they're kind of cool. Maybe I'll learn those. And it surprises people that to this day I can actually still fan flip. But while I've adjusted the grip and I've got used to pogoing like a normal human being, watch what happens when I fan flip. Out of habit, I catch it there. Every time. I've never deprogrammed that. It is drilled into me, and it looks ugly. It makes me feel like a goddamn idiot. And then, inevitably, if I want to do anything else, I have to swap grip again. It's so annoying and so stupid. Just learn it right straight out the gate, and then you won't be like me being angry in a car park on your own 20 years later, bitter and desperate for a glass of whiskey. Jesus. So the last thing that I want to talk about, the last sin from my past I wish to atone for, it's not so much a trick as it is a concept. Because you can apply this to a lot of things, and it's just landing on one foot. Why? Now, going back to what I was saying about the coconut wheelie grabs, a lot of variations that you do to tricks, you know, you want to illustrate that you can do something different to it, and in a lot of cases, for it to be worth doing, you need to do something that illustrates control, mastery of the trick. So I think the logic is that if you can do a single flip, I mean, you could do double flips, because that shows you're good enough to add the extra flip in, but what about if you just do the same thing and land on one foot? I mean, that's logical, right? But again, why? What has that achieved? What has that really added? There's a few tricks that I used to quite like catching on one foot, but it never looks good. There are really two kind of variations there within this one idea. One is where you do basically what I just did, where you land, hold it for a split second, and then put the other foot down. Great. Okay, so you've just wasted a bit of time for not much. And the second, which is even worse, is when someone lands on one foot and is determined to control it and be like, oh yeah, look at me, I'm on one foot, which means they're wasting more time, but inevitably while they're doing that, the other leg's flailing around all over the shop. It ain't pretty, man. It just is not good. And honestly, it's bad enough when people are rolling because there's so much weeble wobble about it, but it gets so much worse when people are in rail. You see, catching things to one foot rail is a thing, and I'm not taking away from that. Catching something in rail one-footed is hard. And back when I used to do rail tricks all the time and rail combos, there were a couple where I liked landing on one foot. But if you're gonna do it, it has to make sense within the combo. So if I'm landing on my back leg, I might want to flip straight out, for instance. End up with a combo a little bit like this. And that works. You've landed on one leg, you've controlled it, and it is part of the process. I might, if this was the sort of thing I would do, I might land on that leg and then put this foot there. So then I could do, like, I don't know, a crossfoot butterflip or something. And again, it would make sense. But every so often I see people land on one foot on rail and then put the other foot down. What have you gained? What is the point of that? It just looks ridiculous. I don't get it. Weirdly, I don't think the same can be said about the crossfoot landing. And that might seem a little bit odd, it might even seem hypocritical, but think about the dynamics of a crossfoot versus a one-foot landing. You see, when you land one-footed, you either immediately tap the other foot down, in which case there was no point to the one foot, or you wobble, it just doesn't look good. Crossfoot landings, on the other hand, are more solid, even if it is an awkward position. And also, if you land crossfoot and then immediately hop out, as I just did, it still gives it some added, some extra dynamism to it, a little bit of extra flair. On top of all this, landing crossfoot is a lot harder. Now, just things being more difficult does not inherently give them more value, but I've done 5-footed shove-its to 1 foot, and they're not that hard. But I've heard rumours of someone doing 5-footed shove-its to crossfoot, and I don't even want to think about doing that. That's terrifying. But I would love to see it. I think it'd look amazing. Now, just by way of an example, the one trick that I can reliably do to both 1 foot and to crossfoot is the double kickflip. Now, I like the double kickflip. I like the double kickflip to crossfoot. But the 1 foot one is always a bit meh. Again, like I said, it doesn't really add anything. It doesn't look better. I don't see the point. It's ultimately what it comes down to with the 1 foot landers. I just don't see the point. So having made it through those 5 examples now, I realise I probably could call this video Tricks Tony Gale used to think were really cool, but now he realises he was an absolute idiot. And it wouldn't be wrong. I mean, teenage me was an idiot, but that's not the point I want you to take from this. Those examples were to try and show you 5 different points that I apply to my skating all the time. Everything that I learn, every idea that I come up with has to go through a set of filters, a set of ideas that I believe make me a better skater, and I think they will make you a better skater too. So let's go through them just to recap. The first point is that just because something is original or different, it doesn't make it good. Yes! I mean, even if we just look at the first part of that, if you think it's original, it probably isn't. There's so many things I've come up with as a kid that I was like, oh, look at this. And then Alyssa go, oh, no, Steve Rocco did that in 1982. It was always Steve Rocco too. It was really annoying. But there's so many tricks that people have come up with and just gone, no, it's awful. Put it in the bin. The fact that you've resurrected it 10, 20 years later doesn't give it any new value. It was abandoned for a reason, and that's why I included the monkey flip in here. I'm pretty sure the finger flip and the monkey flip have been around for just as long as each other, but in this process of natural selection, one won and one lost. The finger flip, as we said, smooth, quick, natural. The monkey flip, ugly, horrible, squatty, bad. But every generation, this new skater will come along and be like, oh, well, rather than do finger flips like everyone else, I'm going to grab my board here and rag it behind me like an ape, because it's different. Sorry, mate. That does not make it good. And the problem, second point, is that flow is everything. Style is ultimately everything. Kind of like what I said with the pogo earlier. If your tricks don't flow, if they don't look smooth, if they don't look good, no one's going to want to see that. You might really enjoy it, but once you start feeling flow, once you start feeling this kind of Zen-like approach where things just link together, you'll understand why we abandon the monkey flip and things like that. Freestyle is all about how tricks link together. It's not about individual little video snippets. Those are the things you just dump on Instagram as a throwaway, like, look at this curiosity. But that's beginner level stuff. And at this point, 70 trick tips deep, we want to get to the next level, and that is about linking things. So if there's no flow, if you can't get into it smoothly, throw it away. It's not worth you wasting your time on. But then point 3 is that sometimes small adjustments, small changes can take something from irredeemably ugly or absolutely no flow into something worthwhile. And I don't just mean the example that I gave there, which is changing the hand from the truck to the board during the pogo, but sometimes just the way you roll into something. Small adjustments can take something from just irredeemable to good. My personal example that I've not mentioned yet is the English flip. See, I invented that in 2002, 2003. I was a little kid, right? Tommy always just done the Irish flip. I'm like, that's a great trick. I can't do 9 to 50/50s, but I can do Caspers. I mean, turns out the English flip is way harder, but I didn't know that. I was just like, well, it means I don't need to stand on the truck. But I always did my Caspers rolling backwards. So then when I started doing English flips, I was rolling into them backwards, and it just doesn't work. It's hideous. The momentum, the motion, everything is all wrong. It's janky. It's horrible. So I put it in the bin. Shouldn't have done, because 10 years later I realized, oh God, teenage me was an idiot. You roll forward into it, and then it bites, and the motion of the flip, it throws you out forwards, and God, all of a sudden this trick becomes worthwhile. Honestly, I could do English flips every single day until my board is in splinters. It's a really fun trick, and all it took was that one small adjustment, and that's so annoying. But that kind of leads me to point 4, and that's constructive criticism. Feedback is the most important thing you can ever have. If someone says to you, just completely deadpan, look, that's really nice, that's really great, love what you did there, but that sucks. That bit, the negative bit, that's the valuable bit. Because if all people are ever telling you is, yeah, buddy, you're great, yeah, you're so good, you can't grow from that. You need to know what you're doing wrong, what is bad. And the best people around you are the ones who will be honest like that. If you've got a friend who can look at this constructively and be like, yeah, you know what, that's great, that sucks. Actually, wait, have you ever, maybe if you take this and change the footing or change the direction, maybe that is the most valuable person you will ever meet. Honestly, look after them. Buy them drinks, buy them flowers, take them out for dinner. That's the stuff that makes you a better freestyler in the long run. And if someone had just done that about the English flip and told me to roll the other way, it would have been, oh. Anyway. Final point. When I mentioned this video to Sean, when I told him I was going to do this, and yes, I know I've mentioned him 3 times now, which means he's probably going to appear out of a bush behind me or something, or maybe I owe him a drink. I'm not sure how these things work. Anyway, I mentioned this video, and he actually said, verbatim, make sure you say, just because you can do something, it doesn't mean you should. And I went, that's my final point. I'd already got that in my notes. And, like I said earlier, we don't agree on a lot of things, but we agree on this because we've both been through this ringer. We've both been doing it a long time. And if you're just going to take one thing from this video, just one, make it that. Always have that in the back of your mind. Just because you can do something, it doesn't mean that you should. There's multiple levels to freestyle. The first thing is just getting your feet on the grip tape. But any trained monkey can do that. It's like the typewriters in Shakespeare. If you just keep hammering at a rail flip often enough, eventually you'll get your feet on one. That's base tier stuff. And then consistency comes next, but that is literally just doing something over and over and over and over and over again until it clicks. Making it stylish then comes about as part of that process, getting familiar with it enough that you can flow. But figuring out the context of things, the meaning of things, the purpose of things, whether you should do it, not a lot of people, if we're honest, get to that point. That is a big filter, and that's what separates the really great skaters. People like, I don't know, Terry Sinnott, Marco Sassi, I mention him all the time, Nick Ballou. These are guys who've looked at a lot of this stuff and gone, yeah, this flows, this has sense, this has purpose. Always have that in the back of your mind, no matter what. Because ultimately, the point of this video, the point of all of these videos I've done is, I want you to be a better freestyler. That's it. That's all I want. I want to be a better freestyler. I want Sean to be better. I want Lilith to be better. I want Terry Sinnott to be better. Because as individual freestylers get better, the entire level comes up. Freestyle improves when we improve. And the only way we're going to do that is by thinking about it on this level. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you take something from it. If you think it's a great idea, let me know. If you think it's a terrible idea, also let me know, because criticism is valid. You know, if there's anything you want me to cover along these lines, whether it's about contest runs or board setups or just core concepts, things that I abjectly hate personally, let me know. I will do those videos, maybe, providing I don't, you know, almost die this year or something. Ugh.
Those two tricks, never do them.